Hi, everyone, and welcome. Welcome back for those of you who have joined me for one of my 101 series prior, and welcome for the first time for those of you who are viewing for the first time. As always, if you find this content valuable, please go ahead and click subscribe and click like. It just pushes the channel out. As you know, we all know the algorithm and we all need help with the algorithm. So please go ahead and hit subscribe and like. I would love to be able to reach more people and give them the educational information that I'm providing on travel. I am the Mike in Travel Mike, of course, with Katie Travel Group here in the Everett and Mukilteo, Washington area. And I really just, I love travel. I love giving people a reason to say yes to the world. So I do really appreciate you guys tuning in and joining me for this one. So when I originally did this presentation, and I'm so sorry, let me say, I'll go here. When I originally did this presentation, I did this live. And up on the screen right now, you guys, you have my QR codes for Facebook and for Instagram. Please do follow me. I post I daily. There are posts on there with different travel ideas. There are ongoing sales that are constantly going. So definitely follow me if you have any travel interest at all. Click on my Instagram, go to my Facebook, and definitely follow me. Make sure you get notifications on there because, like I said, there is content being updated on my Facebook and my Instagram daily. So definitely worth even if you're not planning on traveling soon, definitely jump on those because again, a lot of information posted on a very regular basis. All right, so when I originally did this presentation, like I said, when I originally did this presentation, I actually called this one Africa 101. And it was a great live presentation. I enjoyed it. We had a really great crowd for it. But what I realized when I did the Africa 101 presentation was that Africa it's just too big for what we were doing, or what I was doing at the time. And so, first off, let me say, before I tell you what the new title is, I will say Jumbo. That's your first Swahili lesson of the day. And I did this during the live presentation too, because I just wanted to give people kind of that feel of like some of the things that you're hearing when you're interacting with a lot of the tour providers, and when you get there, the host that you have, everyone has that sort of jumbo, and it's a very welcoming place. So one of the big things about that I will say first off about traveling to Africa is the African tourism infrastructure is um, they're such an incredibly friendly group of people, and they're so welcoming, and they want your experience. And this is across the board for everyone that I deal with. All of the people that I deal with when I'm working with clients and sending clients to Africa, everyone that I work with and deal with is absolutely amazing. Um, I have three safari companies that I will talk about later that I really like, very much recommend, and that I work with all the time. But we'll get into that. Um, so, like I said, when I originally did this, it was called Africa 101. I have now dubbed it Safari 101. And I think Safari 101 is just a really, really great way to describe it, because, safari is a Swahili word. It means journey. And truly, 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 an African safari is a journey. I mean, it is, yeah, it's there for observing wildlife, but everyone who goes on safari comes back, I think, changed as a human, and kind of morphed as a human being. So let's go into, you know, some of the things that are available. One of the reasons, like I said, um, I didn't want to, sorry, I just totally lost control of my slideshow here. Here we go. Um, I didn't want to cover too much in a single presentation. So, because I mean, Africa's huge. It is a massive continent. You can go ahead and read all of the facts in there. But it's we're talking about 11.7 million square miles. That's that's the United States, China, and India combined as far as just land mass, and so just massive. But we're really kind of for our purposes, and as far as like the purposes of travel goes, we are not really super concerned. Not that we're not concerned about the entire continent, but there are places on the continent that are well traveled, that have a really well developed travel infrastructure, and those are really the places that we tend to want clients, especially at a leisure level of travel. Those places where your clients are going to be safe, they're going to have the kind of infrastructure that not that you're necessarily used to, but that provides you with the type of guest experience that you expect when you are traveling, and that is going to make you feel comfortable. And like again, there is a very welcoming vibe, and so you want to make sure they want to make sure that every place that you go, and that we will ensure that every place that you travel to is not just that authentic world experience, but that you're having a true a truly I'm going to edit all of this out. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. So primarily what we're going to be interested in is we're going to be interested in the areas that are around Kenya, Tanzania. We're going to be looking at South Africa, things like that. Those are going to be the places that have the most the most developed infrastructure, and that are going to provide us with the best travel experience. Um, so this is really what we're looking at when we're talking about the safari area: Kenya, Tanzania, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Botswana, Zambia, South Africa, and then Madagascar. In this area, you're going to have your great migrations. You're going to have your gorilla trekking. You're going to be able to go, see your elephants, giraffes, etc. All of those things are going to be in this area. So that's definitely a one, the not a one-stop shop, but this is going to be our focal area here. So this entire focal area around this southern quarter horn, because this is Cape Horn down here. So kind of the southern horn is like where we're going to go. So it's kind of from central West Africa down is going to be the primary travel area where we're going to be focusing. And it's also going to be our primary safari area. So things about traveling to Africa. So there's a few things that you want to keep in mind when traveling to Africa. There are recommended yellow fever vaccinations. And again, when I say that's recommended, these are recommended that they be up to date. There are areas where you're allowed to fly into Africa without a yellow fever vaccination, but the problem is if you go on some sort of trek where you may have to go from country to country, then you run into a problem where you may be fine on the country that you landed in, but the second part of the trek that you have. So it's just a good idea to go ahead and plan on having your yellow fever vaccination if you're going. You want to have the typhoid, hepatitis. Those things should all be up to date. Those are standard across the country anyway, but those are just things that you want to make sure you have up to date. I'm not a medical professional, so realistically, the easiest thing to do is, and everybody is going to be able to help you with this if you're any provider you have. So if you just make an appointment with your physician and tell your physician that you're going to be traveling to Africa, give them the dates that you're going to be able to you're going to be traveling, and they will provide you with the proper vaccination schedule based on the country and when you're going. So again, vaccinations is a thing that you do want to be aware of, especially when it comes to malaria. The malaria prophylaxis is not necessarily needed everywhere you go and isn't required everywhere you go, especially if you're going to be going to South Africa, because South Africa has a lot of malaria-free zones. However, again, speak with your medical professional, because you may have underlying issues that require different vaccinations. So again, when you're thinking, and this is really any kind of international travel, but especially if you're going to be traveling to Africa, because you do have things like yellow fever and you've got malaria that you have to take in consideration, please make sure that you see your medical professional about that. Most places is a super, super easy visa with a 60 to 90-day window, something to that effect. Most U.S. passport holders don't need to worry about that at all. Now, I do want to talk really briefly about luggage. And the reason that I want to talk about luggage is because It sounds like this really silly thing, but if you're going on safari, um, you're probably going to be in smaller vehicles and smaller aircraft at some point. So weight does become an issue. So the other thing is depending upon what type of safari you're going on, you may be going between tent village, lodges, hotels, back and forth between that. So size of luggage, the amount of luggage that is being carried around is going to be something to take into consideration. So when you're packing, I know this sounds weird, but pack a lot of the same thing. Pack a lot of neutral colors. You're going to hear this from every tour provider when we, when we book, we'll talk more in depth about this. But you want to be in neutral colors. You want to be in earth tones. You want to be in tans and browns. You don't want to be in bright colors. Well, and it's a really simple explanation. If you think about it, bright colors attract wildlife, and whether you look like food or you look like nectar or whatever you look like, we just want to look like dirt because nothing's really, dirt isn't really on the menu for anything. So just stay, you want to make sure that your colors are neutral. That's really all we're talking about there. All right, so luggage, keep it small, keep it basic, and keep your clothing plain. Um, Africa safari is magical because of the availability of species in Africa. You've got 1,100 mammal species, 2,300 bird species, 1,500 reptile species. It is the home of the big five. The Great Migration is there. So there's so much to see on safari. You have, everything from the meerkats of Madagascar to, the African wild dogs across the Serengeti. Um, just an amazing place. Things to take into consideration about when you're going. This is my favorite slide, I think, of this entire presentation because one of the things that folks have to remember is that Africa is primarily, I think there's just a tiny bit of it that's above the equator, but it is mostly below the equator. So you're talking about the southern hemisphere of the planet. So remember that the seasons are going to be flip-flopped. And not only are the seasons going to get flip-flopped, but what is north is going to be warmer than what is south. So remember that, right? So if you are in Egypt, now Egypt is a desert, so they don't really have a lot of seasons, but in Egypt, it's going to be significantly warmer than it is obviously in South Africa. And South Africa actually is really neat because South Africa has seasons, and so if that's something that you want to experience while you're there, they have a little bit more prominent seasonal change. So you've got a short dry season from January to March. That is going to be a pretty mild temperature. It's going to be not mild, sorry. That's where you're going to be like hotter. So you're going to have your 75s, your 90s. So that's kind of your what would be considered high summer. The rainy season, which would be our mid-March to mid-May. A lot of rain. Everything turns green. So that's your spring. Okay. And then you've got another dry season from June through October. And that's got your relatively mild, so consider that like early summer. Um, and then of course late summer. And then November through December is super, super rainy. And you're looking at 72 to 86. So, a little bit muggier in those times. So think about that when you're thinking about November and December, that you are going to be dealing with a little bit more muggy temperatures there. All right. So again, I would say when you are considering traveling to Africa to think of it more in terms of as opposed to like time of year, think of it more in season, because the seasons are going to affect your experience a lot more so than say time of year, because you are dealing with wildlife and wildlife aren't on a calendar, they are following the weather. So in the dry season, if you are going June through October, that's going to be your game viewing periods. Those are going to be, where you're going to see animals congregated around water holes, right? Because there's less vegetation. So they're easier to spot. And you're going to see a lot of congregations of animals and animal species during that period of time. because so many of the species are going to be going after the same water sources. And so you if you want that sort of Discovery Channel action experience where you're seeing a lot of different species coming together at the same time, that's definitely going to be your June through October period. Then you've got November through May, and November through May is really great because November through May, I'm just going to say it, you can see it in the pictures right there. That's baby season. So you're going to have a lot of those like very green landscapes, right? Not a lot of people are there during that period, so it is kind of considered off season. So November through May is going to be a much more affordable time to go. So that's definitely a time to plan. And that's your great place. You're going to see a lot of their baby animals. Again, everything's going to be super green. So not a big action period necessarily because you have a lot of like caretaking going on. But still in all, if you want to get those baby, if you want to see a lot of the babies and you want to get a lot of the prettier, greener pictures, that's going to be your time of year. Okay. Um, a, a reason to go on safari and a reason to go on safari from the onset of going on safari has been the Big Five. Um, the Big Five get their origin name not because of their size, but the Big Five, that term comes back from way back, and I don't even know what this weird thing is on my slide, but I'm going to go with it. Um, the term Big Five comes from when they were actually still doing hunting safaris. And so these five animals were considered the top five trophies for animal hunters when they went, and that name just kind of stuck. Of course, now they are the Big Five because we love taking pictures of them and they're beautiful and we want to preserve them and keep them. So that would be the lion, the elephant, the leopard, the rhino, and the buffalo. I remember it this way. If you remember the word bell, so Bellr, bell R is how I remember it. And so it's buffalo, elephant, lion, leopard, rhino, bell R is how I remember it. So the Big Five. And here's the good news about the Big Five. There really isn't a safari package necessarily. There are a few but very few where you're not going to experience the Big Five. I mean, if you're going gorilla trekking, obviously you're not going to see the Big Five because they're just not in the same parts of the country. But if you're, say, in an area where you've got like lions and elephant, you probably have the rest. So, or there's some sort of park or game preserve or something where they're all available. So that is one of the nice things, is that if this group is the group that you're super excited about seeing, that's definitely going to be relatively easy to put together. I do want to highlight a couple of places really quickly when we talk about going on safari. Kenya is known as the land of the original safari. It is Kenya, if you've ever seen the movie Out of Africa, which is there's some super romantic movie with tons of, um, tons of safari landscapes and just cinematically it's a beautiful film. That is Kenya. And if you're looking for that traditional out of Africa safari experience, Kenya is definitely the stop that you're looking at. Kenya, of course, has all of those traditions. If you're looking for the Masai, that's going to be Kenya along the Masai Mara. Things to take into consideration when you're going to Kenya. Kenya is super affordable, and but Kenya has a very, very well developed infrastructure for tourism. So there's a lot of different levels that you can do in Kenya as far as price points and things like that. So Kenya is a nice spot to go because Kenya is kind of it's accessible for everyone because people have been traveling to Kenya for so long. You've got some, your standard highlights. Again, Kenya is going to be one of your two big countries for the Great Migration, which is that circle that the wildlife do around the Masai Mara and the Serengeti. So you have that. It's a huge circle. It's a year-round thing. One of the nice things, again, you've got the Big Five, of course, is there. And like I said, Kenya has, as far as accommodations, they just have a lot. They have everything from the small tented camps to the luxury camps to luxury lodges. So Kenya, again, is just Kenya's accessible on everyone's budget. So that's a big stop. Kenya, of course, you've got the Great Migration. It is really, really beautiful. It is the top destination for safari. I mean, they have been doing safari for a very long time. Again, they've got that beautiful out of Africa safari experience. It is the number one choice for people who want to go on safari because Kenya is that most unique and traditional safari experience. When most people think about going on a safari, the safari that they have in their heads that they've put together from movies and pictures and things like that, they're most likely picturing Kenya. All right. So again, Kenya follows the exact same sort of weather pattern. This is just a kind of a repeat, and you can freeze it here if you want to take a look at the particulars of Kenya, but it's along the same lines. Again, you've got it broken up into your dry seasons and your wet seasons. Keep that in mind. Again, you don't want to be thinking so much about calendar dates. Yes, it falls in calendar dates, but I would really think about it as far as seasons because it's going to be it's really going to guide you as far as what you want to see when you're doing it. All right. So, a few quick things about the Great Migration. It is year round, and so I love this one because it kind of shows you, like I said, this is that big circle that like all the wildlife is going to be doing around the Masai Mara and the Serengeti. This is year round, so when you think about where they're going to be during this sort of migration, the dates are on here, right? So if you're thinking about those times of year where you're going to go, now there are animals on this plane year round. So don't think that like, oh my gosh, if I go in January, and I'm and I'm in the Serengeti National Park, there's not going to be anything there. That's not the case. This is just where you're going to say what this is telling you is that this is where you're going to have the heaviest concentration, right? So if you're on the Serengeti in February, you're going to have in February, through January, you're going to have a really large um, concentration of wildlife. So this is one of the ways that we also will, go through planning out your trip and deciding what's going to be the best time of year, what's going to be the best destination, what's going to be the best itinerary. And that's something that we work with you as our client in order to make sure that you're having the best safari experience. So not that you're going on safari or that you're going on an affordable safari, but that you're going on the safari that you want to go on. And that you're having the safari experience that you want to have. We want to ensure that as travel advisors. So the next place we're going to take a look at is Tanzania. Tanzania, again, Kenya and Tanzania kind of go hand in hand. You've got, again, a lot of giant national parks. It is one of the, you quietly, if you look at, there's more of the Great Migration takes place in Tanzania than it actually does in Kenya. Kenya just has a much more developed infrastructure. But as far as when they're going through it, there's actually a lot more of the Great Migration that takes place in Tanzania than that takes place in Kenya. Tanzania, of course, you've got Mount Kilimanjaro. You've also got Zanzibar in Tanzania. And you've got the Gorogoro, I know I'm saying that wrong, but crater, which is I have not seen, but it's supposed to be one of the most spectacular sights. Again, Tanzania is one of those life-changing places. It is kind of, how do I put? It's sort of it's quietly, as in my opinion, I think it's quietly like the best of Africa. From the fact that you do, like I said, if you look at where the Great Migration takes place, you've got a lot more of that involved, and you've got, while there are a lot of beautiful cities in Kenya, you have that access to Zanzibar being on the coast and that beautiful coastal experience there. So definitely something to take in consideration when you're thinking about doing Africa. Again, South Africa, super developed, lots of resorts, very westernized, obviously. Kenya, super well, super developed infrastructure as far as safari goes. But Tanzania, I think, a little quiet jewel, just between you and I. This is our friend South Africa. South Africa is broken up into I just totally went it's provinces, excuse me. So I was going to say conferences, but it's broken up into several different provinces: Free State, Eastern Cape, Western Cape, Northern Cape. So there's 9 of them total. Um, South Africa has really, really beautiful weather. A lot of it is coastal. And so you do in South Africa not just get the safari experience because they have some of the most beautiful safari parks in the world, but you also have a really, really well developed resort structure in place there. You have a really, really well developed ocean infrastructure as well. So South Africa, hands down, I would say is probably a number one visit, even over Kenya, simply because it is maybe not as affordable as Kenya because it is as developed as it is. It does offer you a lot of variety. Again, you can have the city experience. You can have a coastal experience. South Africa has safari experience available for you, and you can do all of that within a relatively close distance to each other. So you can have a very, very varied experience in South Africa. All right. Um, of course, you have the San people, which are in South Africa, which are the people who have like the most original DNA of anyone on Earth. South Africa also has the bullet trains. Again, this is a very, very developed Western infrastructure. It is very easy to get around South Africa, and it's a super, super versatile place to visit because again you have all of those different aspects. You have the urban, you have the resort, you have the safari. All of those are available for you in that one country in one stop. So I do highly recommend South Africa. I highly recommend Tanzania. Kenya, if you want the what is considered to be the most authentic safari experience, Kenya is definitely the place that you want to go to. So um, a lot in there. Like I said, I cut this down to Safari just because there was so much involved. And I could do probably another 45 minutes if I went in depth on each one of these. But as my client, I would like to go in depth with you and sit down and talk about what you really want to experience out of your safari. Again, there's a lot to take into consideration. I know that I probably put even more on your plate than you had on your plate before. But go ahead, like I said, up on the screen right now, you've got the QR code to follow me on my Facebook page. You can also follow me on Instagram. Um, One thing that I will say is, like I said, there is a lot to take into consideration when you're thinking about going on a safari. There's a lot to take into consideration when you're thinking about Africa in general. And that is why having a travel advisor is a very, very vital thing. We are here to make sure that you don't just have a experience that, again, is something that is just budgeted or priced correctly, but that it is priced correctly and you have an experience that you come back from wanting to do again. There's a saying that they have that no one ever goes to Africa once, and um, our goal is that you go to Africa and you have such an amazing experience that you you can't wait to start planning your next trip. So again, I'm the Mike in Travel Mike. Thank you again, and I will see you for the next one on 101 series. Please drop me a comment. If there's more information that you'd like to know, or if there's some place that you would like for me to do a 101 series about, or please do let me know. That's my job. My job is researching travel for you. So go ahead, shoot me a line, or just drop a comment. I will definitely look at them and take them into consideration because this is us doing it for you. Thank you again. I'm Travel Mike, helping you say yes to the world.